Budget. I think that there's a huge amount of pressure on businesses in all industry sectors at the moment. And sadly, whenever a business looks at what it needs to prioritise, a lot of the time it does come down to resource, whether that's financial or people, which ultimately is the same thing. So I think whilst we can continue to make sure that leaders are aware of the business benefits to continuing to focus on DE&I and well-being, it will always be competing with so many other priorities.
I think the biggest challenge that DE&I faces is fatigue. And I think that is a result of us being unified in our vision of what we're trying to achieve, but the growing pains of achieving that and the challenges that we receive on a day-to-day basis can often wear us down. But my advice to anybody working in this space is to simply look back only 3, 5, 10 years' time and be comforted by the great progress that we have been able to make in such a short time.
People are resistant to change. So resistance is the thing, inertia, the inability to, move beyond the current status quo. And people who, benefit from the status quo will always be resistant to change. Also, what researchers are showing us is that the fear of engaging with this agenda because people don't understand it. So creating shared understanding around the language landscape particularly, it's very, very complex. People find it difficult, of fearing of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. So it's about storytelling, about moving from a deficits model of anti-this to a more positive benefits model of these are the opportunities, these are the benefits of equality, diversity for you, your organisation and society at large.
So over the last few years, and coming out of COVID, ironically, we've seen people polarise to communities or initiatives that they feel comfortable with or an affiliation with. And the irony is actually it's about creating inclusion where we're bringing people together rather than having separate groups and people showing up to those groups because either they're feeling quite vulnerable. Actually, I don't have a voice, so I need to attach myself to something, some initiative, some employee groups. And actually, what we need to do is start to bring people together, having communities come together and be a force of positive change, use our employee networks to get a real understanding of what's going on at the grassroots levels, what's working, what's not, what do we need to do, what outcomes do we need to drive. We're seeing more and more, both at work and in our communities, that polarisation, which is not good. And that comes back to, integration, cultures, good outcomes. We need to bring people together.
3 words: ever-changing landscape, ever-changing horizon. And I think the challenge is that it is so difficult to continue on what could be quite a long-term project and strategy when you have to pivot within that. So I think the challenge is agility, but still staying focused on what your mission and what your end goal is, even though the path might change a bit. And I think that's the challenge.
I think the biggest challenge DEI faces at the moment is professional capability, the ability to deliver business outcomes.
It's getting leadership within the business to feel and act truly accountable rather than it being seen as a HR issue, seen as an executive board problem. So it's really getting leaders at all parts of the organisation to truly understand the business case and understand their own accountabilities to drive it forward.
I think diversity and equality and inclusion practitioners have got to decide whether they want to be specialists or whether they want to be change agents. And I think if they want to be change agents, then to a certain degree, they're going to have to drop that categorization but as long as they hang on to that, I'm a diversity, equality and inclusion practitioner, that's all you're ever going to be. If you really want to bring about change, I think what we've got to try to do is to integrate those skills and competencies into some of the broader roles within organisations, whether it's in HR, whether it's in organisational development, whether it's in project management, whatever it is. I think we've got to try and integrate those skills across an organisation. And that requires a certain amount of humility, I think, from practitioners to step back and say, okay, you get on and you sort it out, rather than trying to do it for people.